Okay, guys. I don't know how we got to minute 41 minutes and 22 seconds before anybody said the name Drew Allar. How on earth?
Ari, I took him. He was on my list. I took him off in respect to you.
No, this is me and Dave clearing the paint. Let's go, Ari. Take it to the hole here.
Ari, I apologize for not letting you cook on your Texas take on one of our first podcasts. So yes, this is me. Right now we are the Dwayne Wade, LeBron James photo. I'm throwing it up to you. So have at it.
Yeah, Ari. That spending a year behind NFL draft pick Sean Clifford, I think, is going to be very beneficial for him.
Mm-hmm.
See Clifford throwing some dimes in that Packers preseason game over the weekend too.
I was shook.
By the way, you need to send an apology to Sam Kahn, Dave, because when you didn't let me cook on my Texas take, I downloaded all that frustration out onto him on a show that ran 3 days later, and I don't know if he's recovered from that yet. Listen, Penn State might be a top 5 team in the country this year, playing in what I believe will probably be the toughest division in college football this year. And I just need to know, is he going to be the first top 3 round or top 2 round quarterback that Penn State has had during a year where they have a ton of production back? And will he be good enough to get them a win over Michigan or Ohio State and put them in a position to potentially not only win the Big Ten, but make the college football playoff this year? It is a very hard position to be in when you finally have the best team that you've had under James Franklin to come in during the same year where Michigan's also really good and maybe the best version of itself that they've had under Jim Harbaugh. And Ohio State is, Ohio State. So Penn State's had some really good quarterbacks. I mean, Trace McSorley was a pleasure to watch. I mean, I remember freshman year Christian Hackenberg was, John Elway in his prime.
Easy.
I remember, but what if they got their guy and this guy turns out to be a legitimate first round pick who is there for 2 more years and this is his coming out party. They make the playoff this year. That is a Heisman Trophy campaign story right there. I don't know if, he has to go out and play and do it. I know he was a 5-star and everybody thinks I just like him because he's a 5-star, but I fell in love with his actual physical tools at the Elite 11 before, he ever got to Penn State. So Penn State to me is one of the more intriguing teams to watch this year. And they're going to be playing in a ton of big games. And will their quarterback rise to the occasion? I think is just clearly one of the 5 most interesting quarterback scenarios that we have this year. And you guys, thanks for clearing the paint for me. I think you'll
listen. I think the simplest way, if you want to climb the ladder from any rung to another rung, Kansas going from half a win to 6 wins. Well, how'd they do it? Impact player at quarterback. Jalen Daniels kind of changes everything, right, for you. For all Lance Leipold's been doing, ultimately you got to have a playmaker back there. If you're going to go from where Penn State is going to go, from very good team to elite of the class of the Big Ten, get an impact player at quarterback. Sean Clifford, are we going to call him above average? Is that what we're going to say? Slightly
average,
above replacement level?
Yeah.
Well,
Rose Bowl
regardless,
champion.
if all of a sudden you have an impact player at quarterback, I like your odds to climb that ladder if you're Penn State, and that's the quickest way to do it.
Marrying it with all they have on their roster too. Not only that, but also with what they have on defense and some of the pieces that they have, on offense. I love Penn State's potential this year. I don't know if I think they're going to win the Big Ten, but they could be a top 6 team in the country and the 3rd best team in their own division, and that just stinks.
This is a good year for the 12-year playoff for them because I'd like them to sneak into the Final Four.
Yeah, why would we want any intrigue about whether they could do it or not? We should just let everybody in. You're right. I agree. We should strip out any intrigue.
Buy the hotel, book the hotels right now. I mean, there's no point.
Yeah. There's no point in playing the season. I can't wait for that, Dave. Thank you for bringing that up.
By the way, all right, it is kind of funny thing. So a year ago, I remember you having this debate with Ralph. It's kind of funny how we got the extreme outcome of they go with Clifford, they win 11 games, they win the Rose Bowl, but they lose to Ohio State and Michigan. So was that a wasted season?
Yeah, I think that is a very intriguing thought, and I don't think that Penn State fans think it's winning the Rose Bowl is a wasted season. But what if you asked a Penn State fan and said, you lost 1 or 2 more games last year. We're taking the Rose Bowl away from you, but you're coming into a season this year where Drew Allar's actually awesome and you know it already. Would you do it? I would venture to say, with all the hype that this team has right now, it'd be an interesting poll. I don't think that I would do it if I were a Penn State fan. Who's holding the Rose Bowl trophy under a blanket, at night and just cuddling it? It's not what it used to be. It's a good season. Congratulations. You lost the only 2 games against teams that you played that are better or in a position to make the playoff. And then you won the consolation prize by playing Utah. So I don't know. I think
are we at the guy? Are we at the guy naming stage of this podcast now?
Cam
Almost.
said that
Almost.
Rose Bowl is the ice cream sandwich of college football. Penn State was in the middle of the ice cream sandwich between Michigan and Ohio State last year, and I don't know. I'm not saying that the Rose Bowl is a joke. I'm not. If you were a Penn State fan, if you're a college football fan, wouldn't you rather go into a season where you are like this good with a legitimate quarterback that's gone through the ringer a little bit and, grown and thrown his picks and learned from his mistakes and is coming in like a prime candidate? Or do you want him to go through growing pains when you actually have a team that's good enough to make the playoff because of the Rose Bowl?
I will say, Ari, I'm going to expose that I am a 30-something from the South, but I'm going to whisper this. I don't really get the Rose Bowl hype. It's cool, but
well,
people act like the Rose Bowl changing. I remember people were acting like it was heresy when TCU got to play in the Rose Bowl, and I was like, people gotta chill out. Come on now. I remember all of the what was it? Was that the year that the Little Sisters of the Poor became part of the nomenclature, if I'm not mistaken?
Do you hear, Max, that noise in the background? Do you hear this noise? It's people typing up 1-star reviews for our podcast right now. That's what that is. The SEC obsessed until Saturday feed strikes again by saying the Rose Bowl. They don't understand the hype. Have you been to the game?
I'm just saying, chill out, people.
Have you been to the game?
I have not.
Answer the question.
I get sort of part of it, but the idea that the Rose Bowl changing and not just being Big Ten versus the Pac-12 and
Pac-4.
not being, yeah, exactly, is listen, guys, things change. The game's still gonna get played. You'll get to see your blessed sunset. It's fine.
So you've never covered a game of the Rose Bowl?
I have never covered. I've been to the Rose Bowl. I've never covered a game there.
He doesn't get it.
It's the coolest game that I've ever covered. And I've covered national title games. Yeah.
Yep.
It's
not close.
It should be the national championship game.
Have you ever covered a Tuesday night Maction game?
Yes. Not quite pretty sunsets, but yeah, I think that if we're going to get better reviews on this podcast, shitting on the Rose Bowl is not the way to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just me.